Hey guys, I did a lot of work to Artnet to Twinkly over the last couple weeks. Uh, I was inspired by getting the layout uploads working finally, so I did a lot of work on the editor. But I did other work too, so let's take a look at it. So first of all, you notice it looks a lot different than it did. It's because there was a problem when zooming that controls were getting lost off the bottom. It would, like if you're running a screen zoom level of 250%, for example, it might cut everything off right across here and you'd be missing stuff. That was a problem. But it was fixed by using control docks. These things are all docked in each corner, and you can basically, and I have to apologize, my mouse has got a serious problem with it. I have to like bear down on it to get it to register clicks. Anyway, as you can see, scaling works fine automatically. This is a 3D control, rotate. Now, what if I click something that's not 3D? Well, what do you know? Now it's gone. That's new. Also, layout tools will be locked if you're in test mode. And test mode will automatically shut off when you stop. So there's some lights in test. Let me turn that off. Immediately go back to black. In this case, that's because the default of those lights was set to off and it went back to the default. Okay, what else we got here? There's an internal issue with the aspect ratio Z. I had the variable name wrong, so it wasn't reading it anyway from the remote. I fixed it so it would, but I had to rename the variable properly, and that broke it from the saved layouts. Now, it shouldn't affect anyone that's logged in, and it shouldn't affect anyone that's not running a 3D layout and viewing it in 3D. And also, the uploader was flattening it to 2D as well. It was basically lying to the string and saying it was a 2D layout. I don't know if that would have actually affected anything because it still had the Z component. Not sure. It wouldn't have affected anything you applied to it. It would have only affected like if you hit the button on it to cycle effects. All right. Well, anyway, can't open layout tools and testing a string. Check. Test mode immediately. Uh, Channels right here are now read from the cloud if you're logged in. So if I click something like this one, now I can get my end channel. And that means that this is always populated. Stream. Yeah. If you hit the receive button, now it immediately locks some of the controls instead of waiting to cycle through the setting to streaming mode of the lights. That prevents you from like going into a menu you shouldn't while streaming is starting up. Let's see. Oh, I forgot to mention this also. If you have an RGBW string and you were streaming just white, you got nothing. And that's because Windows doesn't support that RGBW color space. So I put a bit of code in there now that if you're transmitting just white, I'm actually building a white color for the RGB. That way you can at least tell what you're looking at. All right. That about covers everything I did on this page. You see the controls are rearranged. The only thing that's not really logical where it is would probably be the live preview, since that applies to everything. But what are you going to do? And I should mention that you're going to get a different result when you're editing groups, because if you're editing a group like this one, this layout is not coming from the cloud. This is the strings layouts. They have an internal layout where they have resized and showing their cells in the corners. And the reason I'm doing that, and I was already doing that, is because I have to know the channel numbers to preview that string, so I'm actually showing that string. But when you go into the layout tools, this is actually the downloaded group. Normally it's going to look the same, but in some cases it will not. especially if you have a pro device in a group. You can't preview groups with pros or single strings in them because you can't pull a layout off of the device. I've got a workaround in mind for that, where it's going to size and put it where it belongs. But for now, just keep don't. I mean, if you think it's wrong, go into edit and look at it there, because this is the actual layout of the group if you're in a group. Okay. Now we're in the edit layout, and you'll notice it's quite a bit different. Basically, I added a bunch of tools, and I ran out of room, and I switched to a different button, and then for reasons I never figured out, it was having trouble rendering the drop down of that button. I gave it a split button, so I ended up turning it into a toolbar. So let's see what we got here. We have a 3D layout, which you could edit before, but you were going to commit the changes as 2D, but you could come in here as a 3D layout and export them, no problem. Well, now I've also got the import working. So just to demonstrate that, let me mess this up on purpose using some of the new tools. So see, I've got all these selected. Now we're going to view that in 3D. You can see that that is in fact a 3D model. Well, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say I want to align those on the Z-axis. I wonder why I unselected some of those. Now let's go back where we were. And I'm not sure what happened to unselect them. Maybe I drug the mouse or something, but as you can see, they're aligned on the Z-axis now. And then let's go ahead and put back about where we were. Interesting. Oh, I also added coloring to this. This is actually in the back. It's really hard to tell without proper visual cues. This is deeper than that is, but it looks like it's in front because it's selected. But it's in fact farther back. So now it's in front. It's just tricks of your eyes. I tried to come up with a good way of making that show up, but it's kind of rough. Okay, now that we've aligned it that way, let's also do some other tricks to it. Let's come in here and do space evenly on the x-axis. Let's do space evenly on the y-axis. Now, if you see bulbs still touching, they're not actually in series. The spacing only works if it's like in this direction. So just to demonstrate what I mean, so I've aligned these in, or sorry, I've spaced these even on the x-axis, right? Now, if I were to align them on the y-axis, x-axis, thought I changed that. Oops. Then it's going to line them up with the selected node. That is on purpose also. So if I select this node and I were to bring it here. If I can get my, and also you see it got two of them. Well, I can stop that by forcing it to only select that one. That's the purpose of that button. Let's put this, my mouse misbehaving again. Got that back there. So you can see I got the dragging and dropping pretty well down now. And again, the purposes of this are just really to mess with it, because I'm going to import it here in a second. So let's go ahead and align that on the y-axis, which is technically wrong. I need to fix that. I thought it was backwards and I just changed it, and I guess I either undid the change or it was not wrong and I made it wrong. But that'll be fixed before it's uploaded, so don't worry about that. Okay. So another thing is with super dense models like this, you'll see that it's really hard to edit just a single thing on it. Like say I want to get one node out of here. Well, I can go in here and I can change width to like 4 and height to 4. And then I can get in there now. And it doesn't care if they shoot off the side anymore. And I can get to these over here by doing this. Whoops. Then I can just drag the whole thing, if it'll let me. Then I can edit anything I want. And then when I'm done, I just set the aspect ratio back where it was. And of course, it's going to be off center now. But that's where the center button comes in. Center on X, center on Y, and in fact, center on Z. So now, just to prove that it's there, highlighted it, and I'm just going to hold enter down. And there you go. So that's most of the work that's been done. Is that going to line it perfect? Yeah. Two different things, I guess. I don't guess I did a Z lineup on these. Let's do that real quick just to show that working. I want to go in here and say align on Z-axis. Now when I rotate it, it should show all of these identical. Boom. There they are. Lined up, see? So there's no real good way to edit a 3D model without having like a multi-layered grid to work with. But I've tried to make this so you can at least make some edits to things. And if it's still impossible, you can go into the grid editor in Xlights by exporting and then importing it back. So I've previously exported this. Now I'm going to reopen it. And it's going to look like, well, it takes a couple seconds because this model is reasonably large. I'll know when it's done because it'll actually change. All right. So it guesses the aspect ratios and stuff when it loads, and it's usually wrong on larger ones, but it's right on others. So you have to fix it after it loads. And that's because X models don't store that information in them. So there's basically nothing I can do about that. But usually the only problem is it's just larger than it's supposed to be. So let's compare this to the original just to make. sure. That's pretty damn close. Bye. Okay, that is the imported model right there. That's before it. It's after I mutilated the other one. And it looks weird because I changed the screen zoom level, I think. Okay. So anyways, you can see importing a 3D works perfectly fine. Let's commit that. You can see it was just a little bit different. I didn't have to scale perfect. But again, you can still fix that by changing these numbers. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, if I was to have this open and then I was to change the scale here, it in fact passes that information into the editor. So there you have it. So you actually have a couple different ways to do your same fixes. Uh, what else we got? Did I miss anything? Oh yeah, I missed a major thing. Someone, one of my backers, Ed, made a request that on the layout screen that you can preview what you're looking at. So I have a live output button for this. So let's click this on, and let me turn the camera on it. You can see that there is one yellow light now. So whichever one that I click on is now highlighted. And also, if I select some, it also lights those up. So you can tell which ones you have selected. So if I had like a window frame, for example, and I wanted to verify the bottom was right, I could highlight it and it would light those LEDs up. And this is also useful for verifying that your corners are correct, that you don't have lights out of order, stuff like that. But this was a request, and Ed's been good to me, so I wanted to make sure that I got his request in there. Well, there you have it. I believe that's everything. Oh yeah, I don't even think I mentioned it, but you probably saw me using it. There's a Control Z for undo and a Control Shift Z for redo on the screen. And if you make a change without committing it, it will warn you to commit it before you save, or before you close the window or upload. So what else we got? Is there anything else? Um, I believe I mentioned everything. You guys can see the text just like me here. Um, the notes are going to be also in the upload file when it's done, um, in the release notes. So hopefully, you find use out of this stuff. This took a long time to get the 3D importing and stuff working, but and bug free at the same time. That was the actual hard part, was getting it to be a new feature and not be broken. So that's pretty much it. This is going to be probably the only release in January. I got some other stuff to do that's kind of large, so it's going to be time consuming. So the release after that will most likely not be to February. I don't want to spend all of my free time working on this, especially now that it's not Christmas season. I got props and stuff to rebuild, so there you go. Anyway, I hope you find this useful. Look for version 3.1 on Artnet to Twinkly.com. If it's not there yet, I haven't uploaded it yet. Thanks, guys.